Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? If you do, you know that Implicit Bias Radio is back on the air. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon, and it is time for us to solve the problems of the world 1 or 2 or 3 weekly whiskeys at a time. It's also time for us to discuss everything we're really not supposed to talk about in polite conversation, religion, politics, you name it. And we're, of course, going to do it with weekly whiskey. There's just so much to understand, though. Nowadays, there's, paid for riots, there's feuds, there's pardons, there's entertainers who double as intelligence assets, there's seed oils, and millennials, believe it or not, aren't actually sipping whiskey. Dogs and cats are living together. It is mass hysteria. Well, maybe the last thing isn't that big of a deal, but the other stuff, well, it's weighing on the collective American psyche like Lizzo's to-go plate at a Chinese buffet. And the scale, as you might imagine, just can't take it anymore. There's just so much. There's so much to ingest, so much to process, so much to just understand. The reality is we wish we really could completely understand all of it. Understanding is maybe one of the greatest gifts that we could be given. Matter of fact, we're fresh off of Pentecost Sunday, perhaps one of the greatest mass gifts that's ever been given. Let me just set the proverbial table here. Jesus has not only risen from the dead, he somehow makes his way into a locked room where his apostles are hiding out. They're afraid of persecution for being Christian. Jesus tells them to go preach, so preach they do. They go into Jerusalem and they begin to talk. Now, the gift here really maybe wasn't given to the apostles. It was actually given to everyone who was listening to them. The book of Acts tells us that there were people from all over the known world in the crowd, and the message from the apostles was heard by each person in their own tongue. In other words, the apostles didn't speak in different languages, but the people in the crowd who were listening were given the true gift of understanding. Maybe, just maybe, that's the key. See, we have to actually be actively listening, not hearing, but listening. And there's a difference. See, hearing just means that the noise registers in our ears. Listening, however, means we're actually paying attention, not just to what's said, but maybe more importantly, why it's said. This could be the real key for all of us. The key for us to decode everything and really maybe even anything that's happening around us today. It's not just hearing the crazy headlines. It's not just hearing the person who's lost their ever-loving mind screaming at the top of their lungs. It's not just the peaceful protest burning cars in the middle of the road. It's even the person making the calm, logical, well-thought-out argument in a professional atmosphere. We've got to get beyond hearing and actually start listening. And when we listen, we need to try to figure out why. This might be the only way we truly get underneath all the stuff and actually start to not just understand what's being said, but maybe start understanding why it's being said the way that they're saying it. And maybe, even most importantly, what they're really trying to accomplish by saying it. In other words, you might be able to figure out not just your own, but their implicit biases, even when they're as blind as a bat to it themselves. Now, we'll give you some of the stories this week. We're going to try and help you try to not just hear them, but to actually understand some of them. We hope that you'll understand that we think of our weekly whiskey in just a different way. And maybe, just maybe, we'll give you some support for your own implicit bias. Weekly whiskey time on Implicit Bias Radio. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We have a full crew here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL. That's the top secret podcast lair for the uninitiated. Let's start at the bar. I would say the follically challenged one, but unfortunately that could be either one, guys. And you know I love you guys the same.
Yeah, you'd have to be a little bit more specific.
That is Rene Girard. He is Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist of Piper's Haven. And next to him is Grant Galatas of William S. Nacall Jewelers, where I think, Grant, you can still find maybe one or two of our Deep Blue. If y'all have any more, or are y'all officially gone? You'll need to grab the microphone to talk about this.
I'm new at this. I think we may have one more. There's a couple. I don't think they're in this series, but I think we do have a couple more left.
Okay.
In case before they're actually gone forever.
Which this episode is going to air on the Saturday before Father's Day. So if you're looking for a Father's Day present, you can go to William S. Nacall.
Correct. The only thing
Great infinity bottle.
Yeah, you have to be careful with the distinction between the regular crystal decanter
Correct.
and the glass. I'll explain to you. It's just my way of getting you in the store. So come see me. I'll explain.
There you go. You could also go to Renee's place if Dad likes to smoke cigars. You could go to Piper's Haven.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of cigars for whatever Dad likes to smoke. I mean, in fact, we just getting big shipments of stuff in right now. So.
Really? I'm shocked, Renee. I thought you'd run out of cigars knowing you got over all 570 square feet of walk-in, 553, I'm sorry,
Yes.
of walk-in humidor.
Exactly.
I do remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we got, last time I looked, we had like 140,000 cigars in the humidor. Individual cigars.
So you've got enough for Caleb for a weekend.
Yes.
That's
And,
what I thought.
and he's coming, he said he's coming Friday morning, so, I might be out.
Well, there you go. And, another great place you could go to the Rustic Renegade for Father's Day, too. I mean, if you're looking for something for Dad, that's another great place to go.
We try. I don't have Opus and all the other delicious cigars that Renee has, but I've got things that make other sounds and make smiles up your own faces.
Yep, there we go. All right, so it is weekly whiskey time here in the Top Secret Podcast Layer, so let's talk a little bit of weekly whiskey, which means that we are talking about, and who couldn't put the fake cork back
I didn't
in the
want to put it all the way
tumbling
back in there because I'm going to need a second glass shortly.
Oh, shocker. So this week we are on Tumblin' Dice Rye Whiskey. This is a 9-year-old offering. It is a single barrel proof, which means that this one comes in at 126.18 proof or 63.09% alcohol by volume on a 9-year rye. So for those who don't follow the show, kind of our sweet spot that we think for ryes is usually a 6-year. You start getting past 6 years on a rye, and you're starting to talk about some stuff that has a lot of potential to be really, really good. So Caleb has already gotten his notes, which means that we're going to hear about how this smells like the armpit of a girl he dated in the 7th grade when they were in the back. I'm not going there. Anyway, let's go to the bar and see what our gents at the bar think about this.
The smell, I was trying to pick out the smell. There's a scent that I'm getting, and now that you told me it's 9 years old, I think I figured it out. Mildew. It's 9 years old. No, there's just some aroma I'm not getting. I can't put my finger on what exactly it is. It's a unique aroma, but I like it. It's a little hot for me.
Okay, so you think this actually comes in a little hot? I mean,
yes, but I'm a 108 and lower guy. At 120 and they normally drink a little hot to me.
Okay,
this one's got a little heat.
All right,
but I like it. I mean, it's a rye and it tastes good. I'll probably get another pour.
All right. Oh, okay. So yeah, we're starting to see where this is going here now, right? Starting to see where this is going. Let's hear from Grant, who has really kind of transitioned. And I just mean into like a high proof guy. You went from being you got to let me finish the sentence.
Thank you for clarifying and not dropping the F-bomb that Caleb just put on us before.
Renee is over there assuming, and we all know how to spell assume, right?
Yes,
ASSUME. Renee's assuming that I was not going to complete that sentence, but I did. So what do you think of this at 126?
Renee and I would taste it, and we're just talking about it a little bit, and it's been a while since I had a rye. So I was expecting that first little bite of pepper, but then we looked at the proof, and it was 126 proof. So that strong proof, along with that, feels like I just brushed my teeth with Red Hot's kind of rye bite. It comes off a little strong. I'm comfortable in the 110 to 120 range. 126 is still okay, but with the rye and that real strong pepper punch, I was trying to pick out. I picked it out a little easier on the nose, something kind of sweet, which is what I always try and pull out.
Okay.
Which I enjoy. On the nose, I found it a little bit easier to hit. I wanted to say almost a caramelly vanilla. I'm not sure how accurate that is.
Caramelly vanilla?
Yeah, and in
like
between those two.
Caramel vanilla?
Or a vanilla caramel. One of those two.
So like a Millie the caramel?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Spot on. But yeah, it's a little bit strong, but it's got a decent flavor to it.
All right. We're going to skip Caleb for right now because Caleb's got his notes over there.
I'm adding to them.
And of course, we've got to hear from the implicit bias pledge, who I didn't introduce. He's not on camera anymore, so you kind of can't see him, but Walker is still in the house. So Walker, I'm curious as to what you think of this, because I'm not sure I know where your palate would land on this particular rye whiskey. By the way, 95% rye, 5% barley on the mash bill.
It's 126 proof. I don't know if it drinks that high. The first few sips, I don't know, maybe that's just how I feel. I don't feel it's as high as it drinks or like the proof is. But I do enjoy this a lot. Like I get heavy caramel, the rye, the little bit of pepper, but this one I enjoy. I could drink this one a lot.
I'm sure you probably will try because we know how you like to partake at times. So it's okay. As long as you'll pay for it the next day and come back and make it through a show before you got to go vacate things. Okay. So, because let's be honest, Walker, that's not the first time it's happened, has it?
That happened once on this show.
It did happen once. That's all I was looking for. Wouldn't be. So let me rephrase that. Wouldn't be the first. Not it's the.
It wouldn't be the first.
Wouldn't be the first. And you know what? We've all been there. We've all been there. Long as it's more of a hobby than a habit, we're all good. We urge everyone to drink responsibly. Sample your whiskey responsibly. So, since I'm making up words, responsibly, let me start here. I think, Renee, that what you're looking for on the palate, the only way I can describe this would be caramel licorice. I get a little hint of licorice, but it's almost mixed in with the caramel on the palate.
And I'm not a licorice fan, and that could be it. That licorice, because it's just a smell and a taste but after you let it, I didn't get the neck pour, but just letting it sit, and I put a couple of drops of water in it, and it did smooth it out some.
So that is the flavor that I get. On the nose, I do get 126. If I put my nostrils over this glass and you put too much over it, you'll get the proof. But on the palate, stop being a wuss, Renee. This does not drink like 126, not even close. This is so smooth for 126. It, to me, is amazing. It will offset what most people think of when they think high proof, 126, 63% alcohol by volume. I mean, you're like, no. If you would have told me that it was 126 or had not told me it was 126 before I tried it, I wouldn't have thought it was anywhere close. I would have thought this drink's significantly softer than a barrel strength. But that to me is the mark of a truly great whiskey. The mark of a truly great whiskey is that it drinks significantly softer than the proof, but you get all that flavor because of the proof. I get a little bit of viscosity to it. It's a little oily, as you would expect out of a 9-year rye to me. And I do get that spice. I do get the spice on this. It's almost more of a baking spice with pepper to me than it is straight rye pepper on the palate, which is what a lot of people think and expect. I'm impressed. I can't lie. The other big thing is I've had a couple tumbling dice before. This is a proof and wood offering. And the first couple of tumbling dice I had, they rolled craps. It's just the way it was. This one does not, and it's not even close to me. This one, to me, a 9-year cask strength is very, 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 very good. Caleb?
So last week at New News, they offered me to take this bottle, and I regret not bringing it now.
I get it.
On the nose, I actually found it sweet on the nose.
Yeah, there's a little bit of sweetness.
I put sweet and then like a frou-frou coffee. I don't know how to spell that, so yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, you ever taken your wife somewhere to get a coffee and she gets something with, hey, whipping cream and all the other stuff in it and all the other creams and sugars, and it just makes the vehicle smell a little sweet but has a hint of black coffee to it?
Yes.
I get that on the nose, followed by spearmint, and not just any spearmint, like double mint gum left out in your car, and you end of the day you go to get back in it, and it's got that not overly strong spearmint, but they're like, oh yeah, it's there. I get that on the nose. Then on the palate, the first statement I wrote was, "Is this the Senator?"
I don't know that it's that close to the Senator.
Oh man, it's good. Then I get the rye, then I get a spice, and then brown sugar glaze, like on the Thanksgiving honey hams.
Okay.
That brown sugar glaze that you put on them. I get that on the palate here, followed by hints of fresh earth, like tilling soil, working outside, and that fresh dirt and fresh mowed grass. I get outside on the palate. and it just finishes up so nice. To me, the flavor on this one and the proof, this is damn good.
Here's what I'll say. When you brought up brown sugar, I am not getting caramel. Now that you say that, I am not getting caramel licorice. I am getting brown sugar licorice. That is more akin to what I'm getting on the palate. So
When you
I
said
think you're more
licorice-
right there. I think
You
you're more
said
right
licorice, I was like, oh, I am getting that. So I do notice it. It's very, very minute, very minuscule. This is
there. Licorice, unfortunately, just jumps on my palate. I'm like Renee. I don't like licorice a whole bunch. It is not something that
I'm not
I am-
Renee's age. I'm not old enough to like licorice.
Well, back then that was the only candy we had, so you know, I didn't eat candy.
did they put it on the stone for you to chop it with another stone?
Well, yeah. We didn't chop it. We just smashed it.
Oh, okay.
You just took the stone and smashed it.
I get it. All right. Okay, so we need to rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code, and we need to play What Would You Pay for the What Would You Pay championship belt on this particular bottle of 9-year-old Tumbling Dice at 126 proof. The Morse Whiskey rating code, for those who might be new to the show, the uninitiated as we like to call them, but very soon to be initiated because we hope to have you back. Red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, I would only drink it if it was free. Green, I would buy this. Blue, I would seek this out. And then for the What Would You Pay championship belt chain presented by Dropbox, it's just closest to the whole. We're not playing prices right. It's just whoever gets closest to the actual price as this sits on the shelf at our weekly whiskey partner here in Lafayette for this particular show at New News.
Mike, if you're listening, he said box drop. You're just dyslexic.
Oh, did I say
Yeah.
Dropbox?
Yeah.
I hate when I do that. It is box drop, right?
It's okay. I do all kinds of other stuff too.
Yeah. What, Renee? You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
This is a yellow, mainly because of the heat. Too hot for me. The licorice. I like rye, but yeah, I'll drink it because it's free and I'm drinking it. But I wouldn't buy this one.
Okay.
And I would give this one $50.
$50. All right. Grant, we're going to see if you can help save the bar up there from the curmudgeon.
Probably not as much as you'd like. I know y'all are a big fan of it. It's 95% rye. I'm not as much of a rye.
Okay.
But really good taste, good profile, but it lacks the wow factor for me. So I'll give it a green.
Okay. No, look, a green on this show is a good ranking. I mean, a yellow on this show is not a bad ranking, but a green is certainly one of those. It's like, look, if I would buy it, because you're talking about guys that are starting to approach just plaid numbers of whiskey and bottles on the bar. I mean, my wife walks in, she's like, I don't even bother to count anymore. And if you keep adding to it, I wouldn't know because there's so many up there. I just can't keep track of it anymore. So something that I would buy, it's got to be good for me to buy it. It's got to be good. What would you pay, Grant?
Did you do what? Would you
Yeah, he did.
9 year, but I'm dropping that scale. That hasn't worked the last couple of times. So I'm going to say $74.99.
$74.99. Okay. Walker, we're going to hear your rating and what would you pay?
Blue.
Oh, okay.
80.
Blue and 80. All right. Caleb Morse.
Let me cross out what I chose. Blue first and foremost.
Well, I kind of knew this.
Yep, and 95. 95. This is probably, I want to say a C note, but I'm thinking 95.
So you're going with the $10 a year rule.
No, because originally I wrote 80, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
I had, because I figured this is delicious. It's wonderful. I figured that they would probably come in and give it a better price point, but we'll go with 95. Because Walker stole my number because he went first.
So I'm not going to lie, as far as the rating goes on this one, I'm in a little bit of a conundrum here. Because this is really, really good. I don't know that this hits blue for me. It definitely hits green, but it's close to the blue, right?
If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Which means I think this is the first ever 5-vote split decision because we throw Renee's out. He's the Russian judge. So you throw his out. And that leaves us with essentially 2 greens, 2 blues as far as the vote goes.
Wow.
Which means that maybe we should open it up to our listeners and see who can go get it. So maybe we'll put a picture of this on social media and we will let you chime in for those who have it. We need a picture of it in your house and a rating. And we will let the implicit bias community vote on this to tell us what they think this actually is and where this rates.
This is for sure the first split we've had since June 20th of 2024 in this book.
And I know we
Everything
didn't
else
have one
has
previously.
been
Yeah,
a winner. So I believe you are right, sir.
we have a unique one. Okay, for the What Would You Pay championship belt chain, Renee said 50. Grant said 74.99. Walker said 80, and Caleb said 95. The person who will wear the What Would You Pay championship belt chain presented by Box Drop of Lafayette is Grant Galatas. This is a $72.99 bottle. $72.99 on the shelf. Congratulations, Grant, as he dons our bling here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL. Yeah. Look at Grant.
Good
Go ahead.
job,
Put it
sir.
on, Grant. You get to wear it, brother. What you think of it?
Let me help hold you up.
It's time for a commercial.
Time for okay. So you know what? That's fair. Time for a commercial. We will take a break. We will come back, start to solve the problems of the world, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to understand some of the stuff that's been happening in the world today on Implicit Bias Radio. We are just trying to understand things on this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We've got a great crew here in the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair. Before we get to that, we do have to help you maybe understand what's about to happen in July. July 12th at Rock and Bowl. Tickets are available at rockandbowl.com. You go to the Lafayette section. You can go to our webpage, www.implicitbiasradio.com, to find how to get tickets. It is, for the Acadiana area, the original bourbon tasting event in Lafayette, Louisiana. We are going to have the entire top floor of Rock and Bowl. We are going to partner with the Acadiana Veteran Association or Alliance and Catholic Charities of Acadiana, as well as Scouting Evangeline Council, to benefit charities and to get you the greatest whiskey tasting you can get in the Acadiana area. The VIP bar is ridiculous. So there is a VIP ticket. Those numbers are very, very limited. But the VIP bar has a George T. Stagg. It has a Thomas Handy Sazerac Rye. It's got a Penelope 10-year. It's got a Willet 8-year wheated. It's got a Michter's 10-year rye. It's got a Michter's cask strength. We have got all kinds of stuff. A Baker's 13. We've got a Midwinter's Night's Dram. We've got all kinds of stuff there. We are expecting all kinds of names, from Brown Foreman to even names like Dark Arts, Pinhook. We're expecting Proof and Wood, all the stuff that they do. There will be lots and lots and lots and lots of whiskey to taste. By the way, your ticket, $100, gets you a cigar, gets you food, gets you your 8 tastings, gets you free admission to see Spank the Monkey afterwards, and effigy open for them at Rock and Bowl. Should be a great night. Fantastic opportunity to raise money for some really good causes here in Acadiana. Again, www.implicitbiasradio.com to get your tickets. Okay. So that being said, the crew that's here in the Mr. Lester Top Secret Podcast lair, the TSPL as we affectionately call it, we are into our bottle of Tumbling Dice, which is a split blue or green. We're going to let you, our listeners, find us on our socials. We'll put it up. You have a chance to vote. We're trying to understand it. That's just the reality of it. Some of us see it one way, some of us see it another, and literally that's just what the nature of the world kind of is today. So the question becomes, how do we understand? How do we really understand what's going on? And the conversation that we started this show with is you have to understand why. Or you have to try and at least understand why people are saying what they're saying, not just what they're saying. So let's start here. Today, the day that this show will air on terrestrial radio, is June 14th. And June 14th apparently has been designated as a day by some online organization that apparently has the support of a Walmart heiress, that apparently has received your and my tax dollars to support the organization, and apparently the people running the website that's trying to coordinate and organize protests all around the country by a couple of people who are apparently avowed communists.
And when I saw this, thank you, Walker, for turning me on.
It's those shorts. I'm just saying.
100%. When I saw this, and look, I can get behind the fact of, like, we're not a monarchy, and I don't want us to be, never want us to be. The only person I bow to is my God. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I started reading and looking into it. And man, I can see kind of the thought process behind it. I can see the direction. I can see in my head, I already know what they're going to chant. It's not a surprise to me that an organization like this exists. It's a surprise to me that they're planning a protest here.
Oh, they're planned all over the United
they have
States.
them all over. But I tried finding an event. I was like, hey, maybe I'll go. I'll get a few guys, show up in Hawaiian shirts and flip-flops. And I don't know what to expect. I really don't think that there's gonna be much of a turnout here for that, because even though we, the people in South Louisiana, we are very anti-big government, but we are also love your neighbor. We're a conundrum of sorts, with a lot of different things, with political beliefs and everything else, and the way we are a melting pot. But I don't think that behavior is really welcome here. I don't think that we really stand for those kind of protests. I don't think that we'll see anything like that get violent. So it's gonna be a boring day.
Well, and the reality is we've already seen this week some of these types of protests. Now, I'm not saying it's these exact protests, but some of these types of protests get violent already. And we know what's going on already in Dallas, Atlanta, LA's the big one. I say LA's the big one.
Too.
Yeah, DC, but LA's the one that's garnered all the attention. Renee?
Well, yeah, they're also in Chicago and New York and all that.
Correct. Chicago has gotten a lot.
But what confuses me about this, I mean, these people are, they're against kings. We don't have a king. All these people have Trump derangement syndrome. And Hitler wasn't a king, was he?
No.
They keep comparing Trump to Hitler. So where does the king part come in? Because they keep comparing him to Hitler. So come on, make up your mind. What is it?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Grant, you want to chime in?
They actually asked Trump about that this morning when he was in front of the cameras. They said, how do you feel about these people referring to you as a king? He said, not even close. He said, a king never had to answer to so many different people on so many different levels. Congress is after him. The district court judges are after him. That's not how a king operates. A king operates, you do what I say, or you suffer the consequences. So he laughed it off. It was really funny how he handled it.
And that's a fantastic call out for this reason. When we talk about understanding things, the first part and parcel to understanding what people are actually trying to say, why they're saying it. Why would they call it no kings instead of not my president? Because at first, if you remember, it was not my president. Yep. But guess what? Now, because we know who won the popular vote, they can't say not my president. And the big reason they can't say not my president, why? Because he was democratically elected, right? We are a republic, but in an election, he was democratically elected. So what do they have to do? They have to change the way that people perceive and think about him, which means they have to try and rebrand him, as the marketing people would say.
And that's what a lot of this is. It's a marketing, it's a smear campaign for a marketing campaign. And they're going to try to do a play on words and try to play on our individual emotions to push us into an illogical and poorly thought out response.
Ring the bell. Actually, I'm going to say it's not an illogical and poorly thought out response. They're trying to push people to a reaction.
Yes.
They don't want you to think. They don't want you to actually respond. They want you to go, oh yeah, I'm against kings, of course. Now we're on the same side. No. Hold on. You have to actually stop and think and understand that this is not about no kings. This is about we don't like this guy. This is about we don't like the policies that he is putting in place, which, by the way, were voted on by you, me, and everybody else. And guess which side won the vote? This is the big problem they have. Because while they want to say no kings, they are really asking to be the king. Not voted for, not elected, not even appointed. We are morally superior. Therefore, you have to follow us.
Well, and a good leader doesn't need or should never have, I think it's a better way to say it, 100% of the support, right? You should never agree with 100% of what a president or a governor or a mayor is doing. Because if they're doing their job, they're going to do things that upset someone, because we all get this, not illusion, this disassociated idea of something called fairness. And fair does not exist.
No.
It doesn't exist in any form at all in nature, and it doesn't exist in politics. So what we think of as fair is forced equality. And forced equality is a farce, because the people here in this room, we all have different intellects, different point of view, different heights, different sizes, different weights. We're not equal.
Not even close.
We may view each other as equals, but we're not equal on different levels.
I don't view Walker as an equal.
Okay, valid.
Okay.
So it'll be that way in politics and government as well.
He knows I'm messing with him.
Certain groups are going to lean certain ways. They're going to push certain ways. And then other groups are going to lean in, try to take advantage of it, and try to take advantage of you the consumer, because that's how they view you as a consumer.
Grant, you
Back to what you initially said was about the violence, about these things getting violent. It really surprises me that they're pulling out the same playbook that they did in 2020. They're already on TV saying this is all peaceful. Again, just a flashback to 2020 when they're standing in front of burning buildings saying, "Yeah, it's relatively peaceful."
they've literally
So
turned into
they
the
learn
meme.
nothing. But what you were talking about is how organized it is. You got people in pickup trucks dropping off masks. How did we not, after 2020, follow the money and see where this came from? Because we're right back into the same routine.
So, Grant, this is another great example of what you have to understand versus what you hear. Because what you hear is we want to assemble for protests. Now, I am not saying that what's going to happen on the 14th is going to unequivocally be violent everywhere. I don't know. I can't predict the future. If I could, I wouldn't work for a living. But here's what we do know. What we do know is that the media has tried to brand these as protests, peaceful protests. Yet, these are not protests. Protests are people who organically show up to oppose another position, not people who are potentially paid. Because if you go over social media, there is example after example after example of people who are paid to be there. That is not a protest. That is paid and organized. There are examples of people, as you said, who have been handing out face shields and masks. There have been pallets of bricks again. They've gone back to what's happened in 2016 again, which means that as we continue to look at all of this, this is not a protest. This is an organized resistance inside of the United States against a duly elected official of the American people. Put that into another term, and it really doesn't sit well, and it's maybe why the Marines here work. Were we getting the finger, Walker? No? Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
It really gets lost in translation because if you think about it, these people as paid agitators, they have no idea what they're there for. But the other side of the aisle, they're showing up and saying, oh, this is because of Trump's tyrannical ICE policies, and he's using ICE to come in and snatch people off the street. So the people actually protesting, they're not there for that. Like you said, they're there just to agitate, just to protest, just to cause chaos. And the Democrats are still using it on their platform as this, the whole thing, the whole concept of ICE coming in and removing illegal aliens is what we're protesting about.
Here's the
So
really funny part.
It really gets lost. It gets muddled.
The really funny part is LA was not ICE going after illegal immigrants. It was a raid for money laundering, allegedly of which some of it was going to cartels in Mexico. So let's talk about, we've kind of started to understand that, number one, what we're being told maybe isn't the complete story. We're being given surface level emotional garbage.
Headlines.
Correct. The question now becomes why. So before I go there, Renee, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, all the videos you see with all the Mexican flags going, if you're so into Mexico, then go there. Why did you come here to start with? Because most of those people are illegals anyway. Go back. If it's so bad here, go back.
Which ties us into why this really got started and what's really behind this. So to understand what this really looks like, you've got to really think through all the potential possibilities. And I hate to say it, but Doug Henning is alive and at work right now in the media every single day. It's magic, right? Look what's happening in the right hand. Don't look what's happening on the left hand. So if you think about the fact that there's another side to this story, it has been said that this started when ICE went in for a money laundering raid at a business in LA. And that money was apparently coming through the United States, going back to Mexico. You had a lot of stuff involved there. Now you put together that the Mexican government is highly upset at what the American government is doing on its own property. They are now condemning us and telling people to protest inside the United States. So you have put this together, a foreign government directing people who are funded and organized to destroy, disrupt inside of the United States. What does that sound like to you?
Insurrection. That sounds like, and this is worse than the January 6th thing because January 6th didn't burn nothing. They broke a couple of windows and doors, but I mean, they're destroying buildings and police cars and regular cars, and it's an insurrection.
It's an interesting conversation to say the least, which has to continue because Walker gave us the finger. Yeah, he's wearing those shorts, but not that finger. The 1 minute finger, which means we got to take a break. We're going to come back and bring you more the rest of hour one of this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. Final segment of hour one of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. We got to talk about, because we're in the Mr. Lester's TSPL, what's going down at Mr. Lester Steakhouse in June. $15 Sinatra Old Fashions.
Yes. First and foremost, shame on you. You should drink it neat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Secondly, you'll pay more than $15 for it neat most anywhere else.
Oh, yes.
I took advantage of that when we were at Summer Supper.
I think we all did.
I hit the Sinatra pretty hard.
Oh, yeah. No, we had a lot of people hit the Sinatra pretty hard. I mean, to the point of bottles of Sinatra.
My first glass was this much Sinatra.
Yep.
I think I was trying to sing like old Blue Eyes at the end of the night.
Trust me, you did not accomplish that. All right. Yeah. We got to dive back in. There are more specials. We'll tell you more about those specials, but trust me, you want to go to Mr. Lester Steakhouse and take advantage because there are also some $5 pours of select bourbon and whiskeys there. Go, enjoy. You won't be disappointed. All right. So we were talking about understanding the real meaning behind the No Kings protests on June 14th, which is the day this episode will air on terrestrial radio, about all the different stuff that's kind of behind it and where the funding has come from, the fact that this is well organized. This is not organic. This is being done on purpose. The fact that this might be tied to Mexico, because now you got the Mexican government getting involved and being upset that the United States is enforcing law on its own territory. Even to the point, and I thought this was unique and poignant, for lack of a better word, the Mexican president was urging people to continue to protest and disagree with the American government on American soil, urging them to do it when it's illegal to do that in Mexico. So if we would have said that to American citizens in Mexico and it was executed, they would have been in violation of Mexican law. Yet the Mexican president is doing this. That's just it's a layer.
It's okay to break laws that aren't yours. You didn't know that?
There you go.
Just don't get caught.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're going to go arrest her in Mexico? No.
Okay, so let's tie into some of why, maybe the kind of why behind the why. And there's an old saying that you have to ask why 5 times before you really get to the actual meaning. I am of the belief that there's probably multiple reasons why we are seeing what we are seeing. Specifically with the narrative around it of peaceful protest, which, are there going to be some peaceful protests? Sure, there will be some. Will there be some violence? We've already seen that there is. And it's a funny conversation. I was talking to somebody who said, man, I had a buddy from LA who showed me, here's where the protests are. It's a 3-block area. I'm across the street from the end of it, and then turned around and said, here's everybody else in LA being normal. To which my response was kind of, well, gee, the rain's got to stop somewhere, doesn't it? It can't rain everywhere at the same time. It doesn't mean you're not having this. It might be smaller than you think or smaller than people are making it out to be, but it's still going on.
Yeah, I think Soros only leased so much block area.
Could be.
So if they go outside, the lease is violated or they violate. In other words, then people ain't going to put up with that mess.
Maybe.
Here's a question. If I'm driving around with a trailer and a forklift and I see bricks on a pallet on the side of the road, is it legal to pick them up?
If they're on public property and they are unclaimed,
I mean,
technically they're a lost item. You could bring them to the police department.
We had this.
They should have
last
pounded
time.
them for a few days.
There was a protest a while back, and they had a pallet or two of bricks that showed up. I mean, I wouldn't mind, a brick face on my house or something like that.
There you go.
I mean, because we already know in LA and other places there have been pallets of bricks that were delivered just before a protest, and you could trace that money back where you want to go to. But
Yeah, same with Minnesota.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, they had all of this stuff stationed. It was very very well organized and funded.
You just need
But look,
somebody
I
with a
don't
30-foot gooseneck.
I don't care how confined to how many blocks. You got video footage again of people running in and out of businesses and looting.
Yep.
Okay, I don't care how many blocks it is. One window broken, one family just absolutely broke because their business was looted is too much.
So
And the fact that they have paintball guns combating these people. There was one group of maybe 10 or 12 SWAT officers, and they had their paintball guns, and they're having fireworks.
okay, I will say this
shot at
though.
them.
Have you
I
seen?
didn't know how to feel about
Have
that.
you
It was
seen the
almost kinda
video?
sad to
Have you
watch.
seen the video of the dude getting shot in the groin with the non-lethal weapon, which is absolutely hysterical?
And that's an old one. That's an old one as well.
You
too.
don't.
It's
the
not a recent
paintball
one.
guns, what they don't tell you, it's most of it, I bet you it's malodorant, which
No,
is,
so these are pepper ball. The malodorant ones that you're talking about were phenomenal,
oh yeah,
but
make you puke.
they had a problem with them where your shelf life is very short. It was eating through the silicone and polymer 68 caliber, I think, housing.
Yeah.
And it would seep out, and then everyone, like if one busted in here, most of us, myself probably included, would vomit uncontrollably.
That's just from Walker's shorts, though.
Yeah.
And trust me, like it's awesome to see
Sorry,
this thing
Walker.
work.
It's just too easy.
But most of what they're shooting is a pava powder, which is pepper balls, the manufacturer. There's a few others, but pepper ball's the big one. And you get a direct impact round, so it's bismuth with the pava, the capsaicinoid that works as a pepper, and it's pretty stout.
Yeah. So in other words, it hurts when you get hit with that.
Okay.
Yeah, they say that it'll incapacitate you right away. I'm living proof that it pisses you off.
Okay, so let's get to that why behind the why again. So why would the Mexican government get involved? First of all, if these are American citizens.
Well, I think that's a superficial question, though.
No. It's a really important question.
It is. It's the first question.
What purveyance does the Mexican government have over American citizens?
Nada.
Which means that they're citizens of where?
Not El Salvador.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it also, one of the things that they're talking about is taxing
Oh,
the money that
remittance taxing.
Yes. And I mean, the number one monies coming into Mexico, to the Mexican economy, is money from the U.S.
Ring the bell. Renee hit that one on the head.
Because of all the people that come here, Western Union is making a fortune sending money to Mexico.
And you're not talking about a few $100 million. You're talking about tens of billions of dollars.
Oh yeah, that's their number one.
It's a huge amount of money.
That's
So
the
that's
number
number
one instance of in their economic situation.
Now, why would the California government care if ICE was all of a sudden, remember what really started this, money laundering and then removing headcount from the state of California? Why would California care about that?
Well, that messes with their population.
What do you mean? Why
well,
would the population matter?
Well, because they'll lose congressional seats without the population there that they can count.
So you're telling me that a blue state, the largest blue state in the union, could potentially lose ground if they lost illegal aliens?
Well, yeah, because when Trump was there and they did the census, they wouldn't allow him to put nationalities on the census, that if they were a citizen or not. They have to be counted whether they're a citizen or not. They couldn't differentiate.
Please don't believe us on this. Do just a quick search. The AI will tell you. The number of seats that a state gets in the House of Representatives, which maxes out at, 438?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is determined not by citizens. It is determined by gross population count, which means, as some people have said, if there's 5 to 10% of the population of the state of California that is not legal citizenry, that shouldn't be there, and they get deported, or they're just no longer there, take a guess who loses proportionate seats in the House of Representatives, which makes it really difficult for one side of the political aisle to stay close to being in power.
But that's the whole reason for the open borders, correct?
I'd love to.
Just, I mean, not just,
it might be one
not
of
just
them.
California. That's the whole reason for opening the back door and letting 12 million people in the southern border so they could be dispersed to the states where they're needed.
Could be.
I would think that's probably one of the
Because I
top
can think
three
of
reasons.
no other reason for open border policy.
I can think of one, and I'll go into it very quickly because Walker did just give me the 1 minute finger here on hour one, and it's potentially this. It's that the ruling elites, those who are the people at the very, very top of the large businesses in the United States, actually want people that they can pay less than they have to pay American citizenry in order to get the jobs done that they want done, because it affects their bottom line. Our bottom line is that we have to take a break. If you are in one of our markets outside of New Orleans or Monroe or Vidalia that only gets hour one, tell them, I want hour two of Implicit Bias Radio because Stone Cold said so. Hour two is always more fun when we come back on Implicit Bias Radio. Hour two of Implicit Bias Radio. Caleb's throwing stuff here in the TSPL. What'd you throw at Walker?
Wax.
Oh, did you hit him?
No, he dodged his fat little head.
Hey, that's not nice. It's his cranium. All right, so let me introduce you to the crew we've got here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL in hour two as we dive back into trying to understand just the world and how it functions and why it functions and what's going on today. at the bar. We've got Grant Galatas of William S. Nacall Jewelers. We were talking about some Father's Day stuff. He's got some really good decanters if you're looking for your own infinity bottle. Love that. You can go see him if you're in the Lafayette area where the TSPL is located. What, Grant? What?
There's 4,500 square feet of showroom, and there's like 3 feet of gents case.
Which is the way it works in most jewelry
and
stores.
then the watches. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a hard buy at a jewelry store for a guy, but we got plenty of stuff for dad.
Yeah.
Just come by and take a look. See
Awesome.
If we can get something done.
Yeah, ladies, if you're looking, by the way, you cannot buy him the liquid that goes in the infinity bottle, the deep blue infinity bottle here on Implicit Bias, but you can get the bottle, let him start making his own. You make memories together. Renee Gerard of Piper's Haven. What, Renee?
You can actually buy the liquid that's in the infinity bottle.
Well, this...
You just got to go to Nunu's and buy a whole bunch of bottles to do it.
No,
But I'm sure they're okay.
Here's why, because we can't replicate the ratio.
Well, it won't be identical to what we got,
But
but
here's-
you can make your own. Just go buy a bunch of different bottles at Nunu's and you'll be good.
But I did misspeak because I said you can't buy the liquid. Let's be honest. I'm not going to say that I've got my price on everything. There are some things that I will part with, and if you retire me over the liquid that's in that, ring the bell. Sold to the man with 9 figures for a bottle of whiskey.
Does that include 2 decimal points?
Nine zeros in front, 9 figures in front of the decimal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, look,
checking.
seven figures in front of the decimal would probably work as well,
Yeah,
which
but
would be a
you're
total
greedy.
of 9. I mean,
You're greedy.
it's never going to happen either way, so I might as well just
You never
make it
know.
9.
We should probably talk about this.
Uh-oh.
This is me putting my foot in my mouth because you still have to agree to it. What if we, during Implicit Birthday, raffled off
A drink.
2 glasses?
Oh. Yeah.
That's
It's a good cause.
a possibility. It is a great cause on Implicit
you
Birthday.
and raffle, but have a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have a minimum. 'Cause,
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
cheap me, I give you 50 cents.
No. It would be
No,
a certain
yeah.
price
Yeah.
per entry,
Yeah,
right? It's not like you get to pull the Chris Rock and pour in my hand for a dime. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, I vote no on that. This bottle is a very strong representation of the fruits of our labor. Caleb.
Man, it's so good too.
It is.
We shall not share.
It is.
It was a lot of rough days to get that thing where it is.
A lot of rough years. It's our 5th year anniversary. By the way, if you want tickets to Implicit Birthday, which is at Rock and Bowl on Saturday, July 12th, go to www.implicitbiasradio.com. Link is the first link in the middle on the top. Click it. It'll take you to buy tickets. You can purchase your tickets, join the crew, join about at least 170 of our best friends, and come around, have some great pours of whiskey, enjoy a great night, get food, get a cigar, get your 8 pours of whiskey at a minimum, and you get free entry for Effigy and for Spank the Monkey that night at Rock and Bowl. Going to be a great time.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Last year was phenomenal. I think we can do better.
Going to be great to see. We appreciate Channel 10 being our TV sponsor, which, by the way, special thanks to all of those who are watching us on KLFY Plus, their streaming app. Welcome into Implicit Bias Radio and the crew. Tell your friends. Have people over. Have a watch party. Sit around, sample whiskey with us. Try and find what we might have on the show, because trust me, there's plenty of video. And tell us if we were crazy or not, which we kind of know we already are, but that's okay. Let's dive back into why things are happening maybe the way they're happening. And one of the clues is to understanding it. The Cloward Piven strategy is a well-known strategy for those who have looked into political strategies of how to gain advantage on the political chessboard. Anybody know what the Cloward Piven strategy is in simple terms?
It's the acceleration of the life cycle of a democracy.
Well, it helps that, but to put it in really simple terms,
That's not simple terms.
not simple enough.
Just destabilization.
Destabilization by utilizing what?
Anything chaotic.
Any crisis. It is the utilization of a crisis to destabilize any particular government. That's what it is.
Is that kind of like what Rahm Emanuel will come out? Don't let a good crisis go to waste.
Yes.
Ring the bell. That's
Yes.
exactly what it is. Never let a crisis go to waste. In other words,
Fear-mongering.
fearmonger, leverage people's pain, leverage people's scared, leverage people's fear, leverage everything that you can, leverage people's finances against them. Please don't believe us on this. Start looking up where some of these funds are coming from. And essentially what you have is you've got some paper trails. Data Republican did a great job of outlining. For those who don't know who Data Republican is Data Republican is an analyst. She is what many people would refer to as an autist. She herself says she is somewhat on the spectrum, but she is just really good at following numbers and pattern recognition. And has put together flowcharts of how your and my tax dollars flowed through different NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and ended up in pallets of bricks on the streets of LA. How the US government, let's see, right after, what was the date? November 3rd this year? Or no, November 4th this year?
Last year.
Last year, correct. November 4th last year. Between November 4th and January 20th, somehow seemed to funnel a lot of money to George Soros. And when you see where all that, and Renee, you brought him up, which is a great call out, because it's kind of what he does.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's doing it now. His son is actually taking over.
Regardless, it is
Yeah.
the Soros family that
Right.
is somehow making these things happen.
Yeah, they've been doing that for years. I mean, they've been funding the Democrat Party and everything for years.
Okay, but here's the really crazy part. What I think we now are starting to realize is it was never Soros actually funding it.
We were funding Soros.
Ring
Yeah.
the bell.
Yeah.
It's why maybe now as we go back to and we start to listen and actually think about what we're hearing, why government programs like USAID are getting so much pushback. The Cloward Piven strategy utilizes our own tax dollars potentially against us, or this strategy is allowing people to use our own strategies and our own tax dollars against us to create and destabilize our own government.
I wouldn't.
Please
it would-
don't believe us on
It wouldn't
this.
surprise me.
It would not surprise me one bit, but there's a lot of documentation out there on this. And this to me is the dead giveaway. Which means that if someone is willingly doing this, we have to, again, listen and ask, why? Why would a James Bond supervillain be out there who just wants to destabilize the U.S. government? Grant?
It's all to get Trump.
Is it to get Trump?
No. I mean, it's to get Trump. It's to make anything to make him look bad
Okay.
throughout. I mean, it's similar to what happened in his first term.
So
I mean,
go a level deeper, though. Is it to get Trump?
or whoever is in the opposing party who's in charge. I mean,
It's all about power and control.
Yeah, I
That's
mean-
all it is they're going to do to get in power and control.
It's the money that we have. It is taking from the U.S. citizen. Taking from the U.S. citizen is perhaps the greatest money grab in the history of money grabs. Follow me here. I love that this popped up on social media this week, and I actually did the research. And the research that I came up with a number that's a little different, but not much. So I was born in 1972. Anybody know the year before I was born, 50, almost 4 years ago now, what minimum wage was in 1971? Ballpark. Renee, you were like 70 at the time.
Yeah.
So
Not quite. No.
Oh,
A dollar.
not even close. Grant.
$1.35, I think.
Significantly higher, but you're within
Yeah.
the dollar range, right? $1.81 to $1.82, right? It was $1.80 and change.
Yeah.
That was minimum wage. But here's where the theft comes in. And we called this out because we ran down the average cost of a house and a
Yep.
Corvette on this show. We did this years ago, but it's time that we do this again. So the minimum wage, $1.80, I think $1.81, $1.82, right there. The average cost of an ounce of gold in 1971.
$32. Because
So-
U.S.
How do you remember
citizen-
that like that?
Citizens couldn't own it, and it was set at $32
Okay,
an ounce.
so the number that came
It
back,
was like 13 or something.
no,
It was-
the number that came back through the research was an average of $44
Yeah, well,
an ounce.
U.S.
But
citizens couldn't own it.
regardless,
You could not own it.
neither of those matter. This is what matters. What matters is if you worked a 40-hour week times $1.81. Somebody do that math real quick. 60 some odd dollars.
40 times $1.81, $72.
$72. Now, here's what's important. That is basically 1.7 ounces of gold at that time. For a week. 1.7 ounces of gold. So, Grant, you are in the jewelry business. Can you tell me what the average price per ounce has been in the last week as a ballpark for 1 ounce of gold.
$3,200.
So if in 1971, minimum wage was worth 1.6, 1.7 ounces of gold, what would that equate to today as a minimum wage?
So that's close to $4,000.
Oh, no. Keep
Wait,
going.
what was the price?
So $3,200 an ounce for a 40-hour.
What was it back then? The 42 we said.
So say $1.81 times 40 hours a week.
Yep, 70,
Right.
72,
So
40.
72.
Now divide that by $44 an ounce.
44 divided by
1.4,
Yep.
1.5.
So, all right, it's 0.57.
Now
So take
multiply that times $3,300 an ounce. Here's
one and a
where
half.
here's where the math comes in.
It goes from 57% to 18%.
So you're doing backwards math.
Yeah.
I'm doing forwards math.
I like backwards math.
Think about forwards math,
'Cause it
which
gives me
means
smaller numbers I
which
can
means
digest.
if the average American wage today was an ounce and a half to an ounce and
We would all
3/4
make $100,000
per ounce of
a
gold.
year.
Oh no. Renee,
Yeah.
what's the number?
$5,900 a week.
Yeah.
$5,900 a week is what minimum wage was producing compared to the rest of the world.
That's almost what some of these career politicians
In-
make.
Yeah, almost.
And this is the crazy part. In other words, today we are making 18%. If you work for minimum wage, you're making 18% of what you should essentially be making, which means that people who are out there making $75,000, $80,000 a year, I mean,
Should be
do
making 7 times.
do $5,900 a week times 52 weeks a year. Do the math. It's just under 300 grand. It's actually a little over because you've got 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're forgetting about vacation and
No,
bonus.
no.
you get paid
Vacation's
for
factored
vacation.
in, right?
You get paid for vacation.
This is the great theft from the American citizenry. It is the devaluation of our money. The destabilization of the government creates the devaluation of the money, which allows the people sitting at the top to remove the money from the working American, you, me, the people in this room, the people listening, the people watching, and it reallocates that money to the people who have money, who go, oh, I'm just going to let the money work for me. Right? It completely redirects where that money goes and siphons it away because the responsibility, thank you to the Dodge brothers, you a-holes, for it takes the money away from the people who are working and gives it to the shareholders. Which, when I say thank you to the Dodge brothers, you a-holes, court case, thank you, John Mode. We were talking about it, happened to come up. Henry Ford actually was going to increase the pay to his line workers and to the people in the factories. He wanted to really benefit his workers. He was sued by Dodge. And he was sued by the Dodge brothers, and their argument won, was that there is zero responsibility for the company to the worker. The company's only responsibility is to the shareholder. Therefore, you cannot increase wages to a certain amount because it is not a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholder.
And those guys
Please
used
don't
to work
believe
for
me.
Ford.
Go look this up. Yeah.
They worked for Ford for a while.
So, just a little rabbit hole. You say it goes to the shareholders? They take it away from the
supposed
American
to.
citizens? So explain the USAID scandal. The hundreds of billions of dollars that went into USAID to fund $20 million to Sesame Street in Bolivia.
No, that
Where-
was Iraq.
Yeah, it was Iraq.
So it doesn't just go to the shareholders; it gets dispersed to.
Okay, so that's a different
Well,
dynamic.
and $2 billion of that went to Stacey Abrams in Georgia, the failed governor race.
This is
And
the other dynamic.
That was right before Biden left.
Yeah.
He was just throwing.
So
it.
what's the definition of inflation? Can you give me a simplified definition of inflation?
No.
Too many dollars chasing too few goods. That is inflation.
Okay.
So how do you get too many dollars chasing too few goods? You have printers that just go
Outran what was there.
24/7. When the U.S. Congress spends money overseas, do they have to cash in gold with the Fed and get?
They just
Oh.
generate more money. You take this same pie, and instead of us all sharing pie right now, we just cut it in smaller pieces. Everyone still gets a piece of the pie.
And it goes to infinitely smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. And they do it by saying, well, we just generated another slice out of thin air. Literally, what they do is they don't just keep cutting the pie smaller. It's the same pie, and they go, oh, we're going to add this slice. But guess what? Since there's no
Doesn't
gold
get
that it's tied to, there's nothing. The pie stays the same, but the slices just keep getting smaller when they keep adding more pie to the pan. Which is absolutely insane. So it takes the dollars that we have And it's why today, when you look at the average price of a first-time homeowner, the average age of a first-time homeowner, it's 38 years old. It's the oldest it's ever been in this country. Why? Because when my parents bought the house that I grew up in, my dad was making, or rephrase that, the average American was making somewhere around $19,000 to $20,000 a year. The house that I grew up in was 25 grand. Today, the average American is making, call it 70, and the average home price is not 70 to 75, which would be commensurate roughly, or 80. The average price is like 350 to 400,000.
I mean, you have a dollar that's worth, back then, we'll call it 92 cents, to today, 12.
Yep.
That's all it is your dollar that we carry on our pocket isn't worth a dollar just by sheer volume of dollars.
So what's another way that you create less value in the dollar? You destabilize the government with the Cloward-Piven strategy. Renee?
Well, I mean, it's and it still goes back to, they keep wanting to raise the minimum wage. Raising the minimum wage really does nothing for the economy, because what they want to do is you can't make a living, you can't live on a minimum wage. Well, you're not supposed to. Minimum wage jobs are to teach you how to work. And then once you've learned how to work, you get skills or education to move up in the company or have another skill to where you're making more money. But just raising the minimum wage, that McDonald's worker that's making minimum wage will cause the price of a Big Mac to go up. So guess what? They eventually won't be able to afford the price of a Big Mac because the minimum wage went up.
Here's the only caveat to that. The only caveat to that is we are in that place because of the way that inflation has taken over in this economy. In the 70s, 1971, you could live on minimum wage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
now,
because
granted,
everything
Because a dollar was worth more.
Because a dollar was worth more.
I mean,
And
goods weren't as expensive. I mean,
therein lies the problem.
Gas was like 75 cents a gallon.
Therein lies the problem. In 71, I don't know that it was that expensive.
No, probably not.
Because even when I was driving, you could still fill up out of the money from your
Because
accident.
I started driving about 70. Well, started driving legally about 75. And I mean, gas.
1875 wasn't that long ago. Renee.
No, I know it wasn't. It just seems like 200 years ago. No, but gas back then was about 70 cents. In the late 70s.
Yeah, it was probably 65 or so.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people are going to say, man, y'all are conspiracy theorists, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Some of the things that are coming out, though.
It's not a theory.
It's not a theory. But some of the things that are coming out are going to start to prove that maybe the world we think we live in, we really just don't understand. When we come back on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. Implicit Bias Radio rolls on. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We've got a great crew here in the Mr. Lester's Top Secret Podcast lair. And guys, I just don't understand. I just don't understand how things that should appear and be so simple, so straightforward, just can't be. And if you don't believe me, please believe them. It's funny how a lot of this conversation comes back to, of all things, the Do Dumb Diddler trial. Because D-Dumb Diddy apparently was working with some freaky people on some freaky stuff with some freak-offs. And man, the stuff that is starting to come out of some of these conversations is downright frightening. Now, I'm not talking about the scary stuff like we talk about on our bonus content. That's borderline sickening. And some of it is just full-on sickening. I'm talking about the stuff that make you go, wait, what? Or no. Let me explain. A lot of people that we seem today to think are just what they say they aren't. I know it's somewhat ambiguous, so I'm going to spit it out. The number of people involved in entertainment who are also employed by intelligence agencies is asinine. It is absurd to think that so many people who might just be entertaining us are maybe doing so much more. What do I mean by that? Let's start with Mike Myers. Mike Myers is the name that has come up from the Diddy trial. Everybody remembers Austin Powers. Everybody remembers, oh, it's all squishy. It's getting all emotional. I got a turtle head poking out, right? Everybody remembers Fat Bastard. That's Mike Myers. Everybody remembers Wayne's World. That's
Yeah.
Mike Myers. Mike Myers, in the Diddy trial, has been named apparently as an intelligence asset of the CIA. So I'm going to ask the crew and start here. Number one, what's your impression of that? And I don't mean like your fat bastard impression like I just did. I
can't
mean,
top it. I
what do
can't
you
top it.
think? And number two, why?
Well, I mean, you got to think that the people in the entertainment industry, one, they understand how to play a role. And then two, look at the people they associate with, right? A lot of these other people in these positions, they're doing things and they're connected to people that have either deep pockets or deep connections. And you can get in front of people as a Hollywood elite that the average person would never be near.
Yeah, they would get access because of their celebrity. They have access to people that most people
look
don't have
at
access.
look at Dennis Rodman, right? Got
Yeah.
to go out to.
Oh yeah,
to
he was
North
hanging
Korea.
out with
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong Un.
I mean, to me, it would make sense to have him as some kind of asset because of the close relationship he had and everything else. Now, I think he has some weird ties with it, but
Yeah.
that's how you can play a lot of that.
It was
is these
Dennis
people can-
Rodman. Let's just say weird is all completely involved in all of that.
You look up weird and is Dennis Rodman's picture in a dictionary. Yeah,
Dude was a great rebounder. A great rebounder in the day, but
yeah, but he's weird.
I mean, it goes these people, these actors and actresses, they can play a role. They understand how to manipulate emotion and drama in themselves and other people to get information, and that's all a spy or an intelligence asset is drawing information out.
okay, so two things here. Number one, as we talk about the few names, and we're going to bring out a couple more names in a minute, but there's a name that we didn't talk about that I'm going, how did we not see this? Does anyone remember when Sean Penn went overseas to visit with foreign dictators? I mean, this was decades ago.
Yeah,
Sean Penn is out there wanting to go talk to all these people, and you're going to tell me he wasn't an intelligence asset? I mean, this pure opinion, speculation. This is all for entertainment purposes.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's
Jeff-
not. The others, okay.
Jeff Spicoli. I mean, come on.
Mr. Ham.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make it our time?
Yeah, well, that's how they caught up with El Chapo. He went to interview El Chapo, and then they picked.
Was it Sean Penn who did
Yeah,
it?
Sean Penn.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And then they picked him up like 2 days after that.
Okay, so the fact that you bring up the interview actually brings me. I think that was the name of the movie, The Interview with
It
Franco.
was.
Yeah,
It
but I
was.
don't. But
So
I
hold
don't
on.
I don't think Sean Penn actively was a participant. They saw our intelligence agencies saw the video
Okay.
and where locations and everything else.
Hold on.
and they figured out where it was.
But
Pawn.
but hold
Yes,
on,
exactly.
was he? And
think so.
And here's why I'm going to say I don't think so. Human beings telegraph everything. We tell you what's going to happen before it happens, whether it's by body movement, whether it's by intentional communication or unintentional communication. We telegraph everything. There was a movie with James Franco called The Interview, where Franco plays this Inside Edition type reporter.
It was him and what's the other guys?
I don't care.
Okay.
And literally,
Seth.
yeah.
was it Seth Rogen?
Seth.
Yeah, it
so
was.
so they call out Kim Jong-un,
Yep.
and say, we want to go there. And the next thing you know, they're scheduled for an interview. And they get asked by an intelligence agency to assassinate him in the interview. Are they not just telling us what they're doing through, I mean, is art imitating life or is life replicating art?
It's like that movie years ago, Wag the Dog. Same type of deal. But I just can't picture Sean Penn being that intelligent to do intelligence work.
Okay, hold on.
You
Because
don't
his
have to be intelligent to be an intelligent agent or asset.
You only have to be
convincing.
deceitful.
Yeah. All you got to
Well,
do is relay
okay.
information. And if he can regurgitate a line, he can regurgitate a line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And do they have to get to him or do they just get to one member of their production crew?
Yep.
Do they all of a sudden get a guy hired that is part of the production crew that's going to be working on it that got a reference from somebody? I mean, this is how a lot of these things end up happening. And the next name that comes to mind is one that you might never think, Beloved, and actually quoted a movie of his in the opening monologue. Grant, I'll let you go before we talk about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Back up a couple of seconds. Mike Myers, where is that? How does it connect to Diddy? I mean, how did that come out? CIA operative is only supposed to act foreign. He doesn't act domestically.
Okay, hold on.
I know, but that's supposed to, but how do you make that connection? But all of a sudden, one night somebody says, "Hey, pass me the baby oil. And by the way, Mike Myers is a CIA operative. Where's the? I didn't read the article. Where's that connection?
So the connection was made during testimony that Diddy was working with different intelligence groups.
Oh, that Diddy was working with.
Yes, and that Mike Myers was also one of the ones who was there in those discussions. But maybe here's maybe the big thing though, and this is what really makes me go, And why, when you say, oh, CIA operative can't operate inside the United States?
Allegedly.
Hold on. Now, the CIA can't operate inside the United States.
Correct. They're domestic.
Yeah.
FBI.
What nationality? What nationality is Mike Myers?
Canadian.
Yeah, he's from Canada.
He's not American. So if he is,
Well, I'm
if
sure
he
he's
is
an
on the-
American citizen also.
if he is on the payroll, right? You got some potential gray area there. He's
Right.
Canadian, right? He is Canadian by birth. He came to Saturday Night Live from SCTV,
right.
right, which was a huge pipeline of Canadians. So he is of Canadian birth and nationality. If anything, he's a naturalized U.S. citizen,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? He's not a full-on born in the United States to two American parents citizen. He's not even a 14th Amendment American citizen.
Right.
Right? So you've got that going on. But the thing is, there's a long history of these things happening. A very long history. The movie line that I quoted in the monologue, fellas. Y'all remember what movie that's from?
Rush Hour.
You got to say it in the microphone, Grant. You're killing me.
Look, it popped up real quick. I can ring the bell. What is Rush Hour?
What is Rush Hour? There you go. So who was in Rush Hour?
Jackie Chan and
No.
Jackie Fong.
What do you mean, Jackie Fong?
The article you sent us said his father, who was a very standoffish, kind of mean kind of guy, admitted to him that the family name was a lie because his father was working for the CIA.
Was his father working for the CIA or Chinese intelligence?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, as a Chinese operative.
Okay.
But every Chinese national, I didn't know this until recently. Every person born in China, when they come to this country, has to be an agent for their country to gather information and report back to the home country. Every single one of them.
Ring the bell.
Wait, really?
Oh, yes. Every single one.
Did it say that in the article? Because I didn't
Yes.
read the
No,
article.
Kevon,
Yep.
you read
Yep.
the same
Yep.
thing?
So
Oh, no, it might not
attention.
even said that. I read that somewhere recently.
So let's start here.
No matter what you do, no matter what profession you're in, once you go into a foreign country, you are acting on behalf of the
Chinese government. That's more of a more accurate way to put it.
Regardless of what you do.
Right. Regardless of what you are doing, Walker, we're going to go a little over here. Regardless of what you are doing, you are acting on behalf of the Chinese government if you go from China to another country. So think about this. Jackie Chan, whose actual name is Fong. By the way, I love the way Grant said, they said. No, his father said.
Yeah.
Admitted them.
This is not someone saying about Jackie Chan. This is Jackie Chan saying, my father was a spy. Which brings us to even farther back, which is Chuck Barris. Chuck Barris, the original creator of the dating game, of the newlywed game.
Host of the Gong Show.
This guy has written an autobiography and said, I was working abroad as an intelligence agent.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of stuff come out about that. They cannot prove anything. Nobody in CIA
Can they disprove
was.
it?
They can't prove that it.
So wait a minute.
He's
So wait a
actually
minute.
there.
So wait, we're gonna go to the CIA and we're gonna say, hey, produce the records. And they're gonna go, what records? This is how
yeah,
that
but,
works.
I mean,
Yeah, to
there's
me, being able to disprove it,
look.
you can
There's
say anything.
There's a lot of guys that were are retired CIA operatives that are out, and people know that they were retired CIA operatives, and those guys even are going, I never heard of that. He was never in our organization. I mean, those guys.
all I'm
operate.
gonna say is this.
It's been this is a long going. This has been 25 years. They've been talking about Chuck Barris being operative, a deep operative in CIA, and nobody can attest to
all
that.
I'm going to say is this. Compartmentalization is a thing, and we've got to compartmentalize this segment of Implicit Bias Radio. Come back, continue hour 2 of this episode from the Mr. Lester's Top Secret Podcast layer on Implicit Bias Radio. Changing gears and trying to understand why what's done is done on this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Here in the Mr. Lester's Top Secret Podcast layer, we've got the Rustic Renegade. He is Caleb Morse. We've got Grant Galatas, and we've got Renee Girard at the bar, William S. Nacall Jewelers, and Piper's Haven, respectively. Of course, Walker behind the desk, which you can't see. You're welcome. And as I said, I'm Kevon Bordelon. Okay. I saw this story, and I thought, this is going to be awesome. And then I went, 2028? 2028? What the heck? So what's the story? The story is this. Please go look this up. Don't believe us. The state of Louisiana has passed a law that now says that any restaurant utilizing seed oils in the state must publicly state it on their menu, on some signage, on a board out front, stipulating that they are using multiple types of seed oil, cottonseed, all different kinds of seed oils. But they don't have to do it until 2028. What year are we in?
They got a little time.
Is it 2028 or 2027? I'm trying to remember here.
I think it was 2028.
I think it's 2028. I'm pretty sure it's 2028. Renee's double checking for us. Regardless, 2027, 2028, it doesn't matter.
They still have 2 to 3 years.
Why?
I think the main reason why is a lot of people are going to have to go out, redo their recipes to get these harmful seed oils that are doing all these problems. That way they don't have to comply with it, or they'll comply by not using them because they've been using them to save money.
Wrong.
Yeah.
They are not changing recipes.
January 1, 28.
Thank you, Renee. So yes, we are vindicated. Wrong. Okay. Here's why I say it's wrong on the aspect of people changing recipes. Actually, let's go to Grant because I think Grant had something. Oh no.
No, I'm serious. I was lost with this one. I didn't know where you were going with this.
Okay.
Other than I read a little bit and it said the breakdown of the seed oils causes a buildup of omega-6 fatty acids.
Seed oils are, and we're going down a little bit
No
of
bueno.
a food rabbit hole here, but yeah, they're just not good for you. Seed oils are not good for us. The minute we started replacing natural, existing, just straight fats like lard, straight fats like butter.
Oh, butter.
Those things are not, those lard,
Beef
butter,
tallow.
beef tallow, those are straightforward. The human body has been consuming those fats for, who knows, hundreds of thousands of years. Partially hydrogenated cotton, corn, sunflower,
linseed,
safflower,
cottonseed,
linseed oil
These are things we weren't designed to eat.
is a
because they
lab
weren't-
experiment.
They weren't designed to be eaten.
Canola.
Yeah,
You know where canola comes from?
it's Canadian.
Yes. Western Canada, thousands and thousands of acres. They created that. That's their infiltration into the United States.
Okay, so
I thought you were going to say a place not far from here that makes it.
So follow me here on why I think 2028 is, again, you ask why wait till 2028? Couple of reasons. Number one.
When's the next election?
Number one.
Yes.
Number two. How many people in the restaurant industry might just hope that people will forget? They might have to see it on the menu, but they're still going to go. Which means that there's a cost to menu changes because you've got to actually physically change the menu. You've got to physically change signage. You've got to do some of these things to get in line. Because at the end of the day, if you really think that these restaurants are going to, and at one estimate was 90+% of the restaurants in the state of Louisiana will be affected by this. Which means that there's going to be a lot of restaurants who just band together and go, well, if none of us change it, nobody has a choice anyway. It keeps costs down. It makes it possible. This was part of the bargain, probably. Now I'm speaking pure opinion here.
Yeah, but they have to note in their menus that they
which
use
is,
seed
I mean,
oil.
even if, think about the number of stickers, think about the number of
Oh, yeah,
menus
you
there
just
are in the
print
state
a
of
label.
Louisiana.
If they were
stickers and
smart, they
labels.
would
print a
just do a
label,
QR
and, print a
code.
label and stick it on your menu, and you're done.
I don't think they can do a QR code and be done with it.
No, like
Because-
a QR code to their menu. Just do it all digitally.
Well, that's a whole
No,
different.
you just print it on a printer. You get an address label, print. We use seed
Well,
oil.
yeah, but-
stick it on. Done.
Then,
Finish.
then you're in it 3-4 cents. Let's say you got 100 seats now.
Dude,
it's
you
just
paying
$3.
you paying
rotate
you paying
those out.
3-4 cents
Okay.
a label. You paying way too.
I'm gonna give you my third potential reason, and it's this: between 2025 and 2028, what is every restaurant in the state going to do unequivocally?
Sell,
They're gonna sell,
like sell meals.
but what are they all going to do to their menus outside of putting a new label on it?
Price adjustments.
Say that, Grant.
Sorry, I didn't have the mic again. I suck. Price adjustments.
Ring the bell.
Inflation.
This gives them an opportunity to build in additional cost to make you and everybody else
We
pay
have
for.
time to swallow the pill.
Correct. It's time for the consumer to swallow the pricing.
That's
bill.
probably that's a good note right there.
Yeah,
because
especially if
that's-
minimum wage hits like $23.
yeah.
Who knows? Or if it goes to what it should be, which is like $5,900.
But you know what? All they need to do is do like my mom used to do and my grandma used to do. When you fry your bacon, you collect that grease and You good to go, bruh.
Yeah, that's hard to do on an industrial scale, Renee, right? It's really hard to do on an industrial scale.
You've been in a lot of these restaurants, they just got a flat top. You can collect a lot of grease off
You can.
of that.
You can. But just to follow where this goes, right? I mean, if they really want, people are like, yay, this is great for the public health. And then you realize they're still building in mechanisms to stick it to public health
Well, if you go back to
or the public pocketbook.
if you go back to where we were 100 years ago, you know, a restaurant, even let's say 30 years ago, 20 years ago, a restaurant was somewhere you went for a special occasion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It was a, hey, we'll go out, we'll eat here. You didn't go eat at another place all the time. You ate at home. You enjoyed
Right.
home cooked meals. You had family over. You had friends over, and y'all ate together and did life together. And look, I enjoy a good restaurant. I go eat Mr. Lester's, right? It's a special event for me.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing about Louisiana, though. Even if you put the little warning label on it.
Oh, we don't care.
Look, exactly right. Just the obesity rate is here is just extremely high because look, I don't care if you put nutria toenails in there with it. If your shrimp po' boy tastes the same, I don't care what's in it.
Ring the bell. That might be the best line. Nutria toenails. In with your po' boy. But herein lies, and this to me is the problem. Because Caleb, you're the youngest one actually on camera. I mean, Walker's like 6.5. But everybody else in here remembers when pretty much everyone in the state did not have an obesity problem, and we still ate the same way we eat today.
Yeah.
We also drank milk from a bag.
No, we
No,
didn't.
no, we didn't.
had milk
You
from a
drank milk
cow.
from a
I
bag.
drank milk.
We had milk from a cow.
Yeah.
We had our own cow and our own. We pasteurized our own milk. We had a pasteurizer, and we
Really?
yes, yeah.
So these are all things and reasons that when I look at this, you can't just look at the story on face value and go, oh, this is so great. You got to look at it and go, what's out of place here?
Yeah.
And what's out of place is 2028. Why, if lawmakers really care about public health, and that's why they did it, and
Now.
that's what they're going to claim,
Make it happen now.
why did they wait 2.5 years before they make this go into play? And it's because there's other forces in action, in conspiracy, to keep it a certain way as opposed to everybody else. Grant, and then we got to wrap.
Did you mean from an actual bag or an aging ant?
I was going to ask that. We're going to come back. Last segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias right around the corner. Final segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. And yeah, I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon, and I just don't get it. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there watching, probably watching us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, going, yeah, we've seen your clips. We don't think you get it. You know what? Well, I can't make that gesture on this. Anyway, let's dive into what I really don't get here. And it's the last article that actually Caleb had to resend because the first time I sent it, the post got deleted. So I was like, well, is this really true? But I'd done some research, and yes, it is. This is what I don't get. Boomers, yeah, they are absolutely still continuing to roll on purchases of fine spirits just like this. We'll skip a Gen X, still continuing to purchase fine spirits.
Mhm.
Millennials have fallen off the table. When you look at the purchase of spirits, and this is obviously important to us because we do like our weekly whiskey, we rate a whiskey every week. I mean, when you start to think about where spirit consumption is going, the industry's got some problems.
And see, like the people I know that enjoy a good spirit, enjoy whiskey, enjoy rye and everything else, they're some are my age, older, right? It tends to be a different kind of person, normally male, the ones that I know. My wife enjoys it too, though. And when I think of reasons why millennials might have an adverse reaction or adverse thoughts about drinking, I honestly think it has to do with the legalization of marijuana.
Oh, that's exactly what it has to do with.
Because they much prefer to do that. Because, like, look, I remember when did they raise the age to 21? I think I was 17 or 18 when they raised it to 21. Does that
No,
sound right?
you were
I was
much younger than
was
that
younger?
because
well.
I was like just under the grandfather clause. I was like a year or two under the grandfather clause. So it had to be, if they raised it when I was 16, that
then I
would be
was-
88.
Yeah, so that was 5. But that being said, I remember like, and look, I don't condone underage drinking and all that kind of stuff. Control your kids, raise your kids how you want to. But I remember riding my bicycle to different gas stations where I grew up, and I'd buy whiskey. Back then I didn't really drink whiskey. I would buy cheap alcohol, right? And it was kind of what we did as underage kids. And when I look at the kids that exist now, thank God my boys aren't them, but they would rather do vape pens with THC. They would rather smoke, rather do all this other stuff. And I'm like, why? Why is that what y'all want? And I think a lot of it has to do with the image of it's not cool to drink. It's cool to get high. And I think part of that is Hollywood, and part of that is the advent where now we have all these other states that are legalizing marijuana, where you go through and it's hard to have a county, or if not for us, it's parishes, but in other states, counties where there's not at least one dispensary, where it's just about as easy to get it as it was for us to get alcohol.
So to clarify the number, 1984 was the year that the federal government wanted the drinking ages changed to 21 in
The
each
year
state.
I was born.
In Louisiana, there was a loophole. And the loophole was genius.
Yep.
The way Louisiana did the loophole was this. Louisiana said it is not illegal to sell alcohol to someone under the age of 21, but over the age of 18. It is illegal to buy alcohol under the age of 21.
It's illegal to possess.
The initial loophole I thought was not buy.
No, because I was
You got
working.
arrested.
No, I was dude. I've always been legal. No, that I always thought that was funny because at that time Louisiana was looking at these bars. You could go in at 18 or above.
Yep.
You could order a beer. You could pay for the beer. The bartender could slide the beer across the bar. Nothing was broken until you grabbed that beer under 21. Now you are in violation.
Correct. The bar
not
is
the
not.
establishment.
Yep.
And so that way, and the reason why Louisiana did that is because the feds kept threatening their federal highway funds.
Yep.
And they looked at the amount of sales from 18 to 21 and they went, it's about the same number. I think we'd rather sell the alcohol than, and finally that's when the feds cracked down and said, no, you will go to 21.
Bill Clinton, 1995 was when they closed the
Yep.
loophole.
Yep.
I was 11.
Yep.
I
So
was riding my bike. Yeah.
So I am absolutely with you though. It is not just the legalization of marijuana. It's also the evolution of all of the different vapes and chemicals and everything they can put into beverages and what
And
you
I
can
think-
put into different types of drinks where you've
And
got
I
now the
think a lot of it-
ashwagandha and all that stuff. You've got so many other beverage options that create a different feeling now.
Yes.
That's
That's
where
what
it's
I
going.
think a lot of the millennials and stuff, they're drinking the hard seltzers, the other
Oh,
they're
so-
not drinking whiskeys, they're drinking
Even it's-
wine coolers. Back in the day, wine
No,
coolers.
Zima
were-
has not come back.
Yeah.
No,
But it's almost like that with the seltzers.
Zima
and
was a
stuff.
malt liquor.
But
to be
it's,
clear.
it's alcohol in general they aren't using.
Correct.
And
It's
I
not
like
just
how,
spirits.
I
It's
like how
alcohol
you
in
talked
general.
about what they do drink and that kind of stuff because, when you think about it, whiskey. Sitting here, I've had, 3 or 4 little small glasses.
Or 9.
72.
Yeah.
72
And
little bitty glasses.
42.
And look, we've been consuming and enjoying, where if you drink one of these THC infused or anything else, like you get the effect that you would get off of one of those as you would have.
Well, just ask Walker what the difference is between him drinking a half a bottle of liquor and drinking 2 or 3 of those THC beverages. What's the difference, Walker?
I wish I could tell.
Don't you love the way I loaded up that question? Don't you love the way I loaded up that question, right? Because that's what the media does a lot of times. They ask a question that way in order to try and pigeonhole you somewhere. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it goes for, the whatever the desired effect. I mean, I drink now as an adult. I drink now because I enjoy the flavor. I enjoy the camaraderie. I'm not young and chasing a buzz because I've learned more about myself and become more comfortable in who I am. And I can say no or yes or whatever it is. But if you're drinking for desired effect, you can have one, what is it? They come in 8-ounce can, Walker?
I don't know.
See, if you wouldn't have laughed, he would have fallen.
He almost answered
Yes,
that.
he did.
It's like an
Just
8
that
to
little
10 to 12
delay,
ounce
but-
can, right? So, and these cans, if you're going for that desired effect, one can gets you there, as opposed to, I've got to drink, 3 dozen Michelob Ultras or whatever you drink. I don't know.
Okay, hold on.
So-
Look, take the incapacitation factor into this as well.
Yeah.
When you drink alcohol, if you imbibe and you drink a
Too
little
much.
too much, you are incapacitated. You can sit there and smoke, or you can sit there and take enough gummies, and you may get sick, but you can still pretty much function.
That sounds like experience.
That's not where I was going. I don't speak from experience. But seriously, I mean, alcohol has always been the most socially acceptable form of revelry or whatever. But with the gummies, it really has just opened up a whole new door where it's almost a relaxation factor where people are like, I like this much better than again, not from experience, sitting on the bathroom floor and trying to get at least one limb on the ground to
here's
stabilize the earth.
Here's what I know. What I know is this. What I know is the best part of all of this is that it just means more whiskey for us. And you, if you are a fan of Implicit Bias Radio, catch our bonus content, which we're about to dive into. Anywhere you find your podcast, go subscribe. It is unfiltered. It is unedited. It is unhinged. And we've got a doozy of a topic for at least one of this week's segment where, yes, 0 edits, which means the explicit button is checked. Catch us in 7 on next week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. See you then.